ConservativeTalkServices.com.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
I just would like to get your comments on that.
I'm so glad that you're on the radio, and I want to thank you for that.
I'll tell you why.
1019 and 94.1.
I love these people.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian Seaver, son of Cassie Parton, and I'm representing the Parton and Owens family today, announcing the passing of my Aunt Dolly Rebecca Parton Dean, sister, sis, Aunt Granny to one generation and Gigi to the next. Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who have watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens.
Definitely the passing of a legend. Dolly Parton, dead at the age of 80 after months of battling a not very well-known health issue. We'll be talking about that and lots more on today's edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. I mean, Chris, this is a woman who figured out how to reinvent herself decade after decade after decade. My young daughters knew just as much about Dolly Parton as those of us who grew up watching her back in the day. Singer, actor, entrepreneur, philanthropist, amusement park owner. Dolly did everything.
She did, and she will be known more than for having big hair and big boobs. She was an entertainer. She was a country legend. I think she has sold more albums, country albums, as a woman in history. I just loved her. I thought that she just didn't take herself too serious. It seemed like she was enjoying life, just had a good time being who she was. She wasn't all full of herself and everything. I remember there was a story a couple of years ago where they wanted to induct her into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And she didn't feel that she was qualified to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So she turned it down. And I'll never forget when at one of the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving games. You remember that game when she showed up as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader and had the uniform on? I'm like, what kind of chutzpah does it take to be 80 years old to show up in that outfit? Didn't take herself too serious. I love Dolly Parton. And ironically, you know, I'm become kind of a foodie. My wife and I watch the Food Network every night when I get home. And one of the shows that we are watching is a food truck show competition. And ironically, Tim, yesterday they were at Dollywood. So I just thought
Were they really?
Yeah, so I thought that was like really weird. Like just last night they were talking about Dollywood. That's where they had the food truck competition at one of their stops. And then I go to the Drudge Report today and I see that Dolly Parton has died. Big loss to the entertainment world, a big loss to humanity. She's someone that when you see a celebrity, that's how they should be. She was very grateful to her fans for putting her where she was in her station of life. Didn't take herself too seriously. And this was a sad day. I was really bummed out over it.
And just to show you how much impact she had, not just on her generation, but every generation that's currently living on planet Earth. Chris, you know who broke the news in my little family circle?
Who's that?
My 17-year-old high school senior daughter. It was Abby who texted. We have a little family thread, and Abby texted around 3:45 this afternoon. Guys, Dolly Parton died. And my wife, Suzanne, who follows arts, culture, and music so much better than I do, said that she had heard that she had recently canceled, that Dolly had recently canceled some performances because of vertigo and shortness of breath. So at the age of 80, maybe she was suffering from some heart and circulatory issues, but we don't know the specific cause of death. She was 80 years old, but like you said, until very recently, she was very much in the public eye. She was making massive public appearances. I remember that performance she did at the halftime show during the Dallas Cowboys game, and she will be very missed. Her impact, I believe, will be felt for generations to come.
Yeah, I watched the last video that she did, which was a few weeks ago, and she was talking about some of the health concerns that she had. She said that she had kidney stones, and she didn't go into exactly what her medical situation was, but she said that that she had some medical issues, but her doctors assured her that in the coming weeks and months she would be able to perform again, and she was looking forward to that. In the videos a few weeks ago, she looked upbeat. She didn't look sick at all, so this was really, really a shock.
Donald Trump weighing in, saying that she will be sorely missed and showing what an icon she is to the entire country. The president has ordered all U.S. flags lowered to half-mast as the nation mourns her loss. Where do you begin with Dolly Parton? I mean, yes, Genesis as a country music star, but she did so much more. She was like everywhere. She was ubiquitous. She was in some of the most famous movies that have ever been made. She had a theme park named after her. It's in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's a huge attraction to this very day. She did tons of entrepreneurship. Her big thing was reading for children, establishing reading programs across the country. So she did just about anything that a human being could do, and she always did it with grace, and she always did it with a smile.
Yeah, she did, and I'm looking it up here. She is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She was inducted in 2022, but she tried to decline the honor, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would not withdraw.
They said you're in no matter what.
You're in so much. So just shows you just the type of person she is, and such a huge loss to the entertainment world. Dolly Parton, dead at 80.
We will likely make comments about this huge loss throughout the show, bringing any other details that come in. I'm sure there's going to be many celebrations of her life, many memorials, large services. She had a huge following that, as we mentioned, extended through pretty much every living generation of not only Americans, but she was an international sensation.
And one last note, she lost her husband of 60 years last March. And, usually a lot of times when people have been married that long, their surviving spouse kind of passes, not immediately, but soon afterwards. And like I said, she had some health problems, but I also think probably just the loss of a companion of 60 years doesn't make it any easier, of course.
Another testament to her and her character. You don't hear a lot about 60-plus year romances in today's world. So Dolly Parton, unfortunately, has passed, but she's gone to the great beyond, as we know. She was a huge, huge Christian. Jesus, the good Lord above, a very important part of her life. And we'll continue to reminisce and remember her throughout the program.
It feels
today.
like an era has passed. When certain movie stars passed that were movie stars 20 or 30 years ago. Now most of them are gone now. I mean, I'm talking about like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. When they all passed, it was kind of an era pass, and I put her in kind of that same genre, just hugely talented, famous person. And it's like, wow, Dolly Parton's gone. And it almost seemed like, because she was so youthful and energetic, it was almost like, Dolly Parton's going to live forever.
She's going to be 100 easily.
Yeah,
she'll be around for a while. And it's funny because my Speaker Stump speech has a generational theme to it today. So we'll get to that in a moment. Let's bring in producer Joey V here because, Joey, she was a movie star as well, wasn't she?
Of course. I just watched a few months ago The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas for the very first time.
I forgot
and
she was
it's actually an amazing movie. I mean, she's got so much charisma. Her and Burt Reynolds pull it off. You'd think, I don't like musicals. Well, when all the women are scantily clad, I think it's something that you would want to check out. And Larry Connors just did a whole behind the story about the Little Whorehouse in Texas, because it was a real place in LaGrange. He just did that one, I think, 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot she did that movie. I always think of her in her movie debut, I think, 9 to 5. That's what really kind of put her on the map as an actress.
That one was huge. And then one of the ultimate tearjerker movies to this very day, Steel Magnolias. She was in Steel Magnolias, where she played the sharp-tongued hair salon owner, Truvy Jones, in a star-studded cast that included Sally Field and Julia Roberts. She was also, in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. That was 1982. Straight Talk in 1992, and a movie called Joyful Noise where she starred alongside Queen Latifah as rival choir members in another musical comedy drama that was back in 2012. Dolly Parton, who has passed on to the great beyond at the age of 80 years old. We have a big show for you here today. We will be shifting gears in the next segment and bringing things back to the regional and local level, of course, with David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. We're going to be talking to David about home prices in St. Louis. Chris, did you know that Market Watch has declared St. Louis is actually one of the most affordable U.S. cities in which to buy a home, and it's held that moniker for over 130 years.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, St. Louis, one of the few things that it has going for it, it has a very affordable standard of living. Gas prices are always 10, 15, 20 cents lower than the national average, and so it doesn't surprise me that our homes are affordable here as well. Probably groceries and a lot of other things. We are
still dealing with this controversy involving paying St. Louis County police officers. Chris, this battle is continuing in the county of St. Louis. Sam Page's office saying that they're $3.5 million short to cover officer salaries to the end of the year. We'll ask David Stokes if Sam Page is using the police as pawns in this budget discussion.
Would he do that?
Sam Page? Yes, he would. I think he would, yes. Well, we'll get David. You know what? We'll get the experts' thoughts on that. We'll ask David Stokes what he thinks about that and more at 4:25. How about Chris's Corner today at 4:45?
Yeah, Tim, Democrats are starting to have some second thoughts over Michigan Senate candidate El Sayed Abdul Rahman. That's his full name, El Sayed. He is not disavowing podcaster Hassan Piker, who made some controversial comments last week where he said that American Jews are responsible for any violence that may occur against them because of their support of Israel, and they shouldn't be surprised by that. And that's kind of blown up the Democratic Party in that race, and he is standing by Hassan Piker, and I'm going to have some thoughts on that at 4:45.
Michigan, extremely important this year. There's no way the Democrats take back the Senate if they don't win Michigan. It could be very difficult for them. Tris, speaking of generations, my speaker stump speech was inspired by the great Todd Showalter. Todd puts out a weekly email, and some of them just make me laugh and make me think. Chris, you know how people are like, just because you and I are over the age of 50, people think we're boomers, not knowing that the boomer generation is actually older than us.
Exactly.
Todd did a recent monologue on this called Boomer, Thanks for the Compliment. So we're going to talk about boomers and what's up with all this boomer bashing. Like, I don't understand it. Is it just because they're like the greatest generation? Unfortunately, almost. There's still some here, but very, very small amount of them. So the next biggest older generation is boomers. So is that why they're getting all the hate these days? I don't know.
I think a part of it is if you look at all of the generations, the boomer generation is the wealthiest. They are the ones that are the most politically active. And I think you see these young people who are graduating with their women's studies degrees and are finding trouble getting good jobs and still living in their parents' basements at 37, they're blaming the boomer generation for that.
Yep, so I ask, what's up with all the boomer bashing? And Todd Showalter says, Boomer, thanks for the compliment. We'll get his take on that in this Today's Speaker Stump speech at 5:07. Dr. Randy Tobler back with us this Tuesday. He's, of course, the host of the aptly named Randy Tobler Show every Saturday here at Newstalk STL. Runs 6 to 9 a.m. Great way to start off your weekends and your Saturday mornings. We're going to talk about the Trump administration successfully revoking up to 200,000 visas. And, Chris, the big news that came out yesterday from the Supreme Court saying that, yes, Donald Trump's executive order on restricting mail-in voting shall stand.
Yeah, but the reason why they said that is because the Democrats sued too early. You got to actually implement the plan before you can sue. And so that's what John Roberts said yesterday. You jumped the gun. You can't sue yet. Plan has to be implemented first. I'm sure there will be plenty of lawsuits coming forth once that plan is implemented.
Yeah, this would be a great victory, though, for those of us who like election integrity. So for now, the Supreme Court allowing the Trump administration to move forward, imposing those restrictions. We'll see what the follow-up laws. It seems like the left is never done litigating until the last drop of ink is dry. So we'll ask the good doctor about that and what impact that might make on the midterms and more And then what are we talking about at 5:45 today?
LinkedIn. Usually that site is for finding a job and networking among professionals. Well, some are finding another purpose for LinkedIn, Tim, and I'll tell you what that is at 5:45.
Very good. Another purpose for LinkedIn.
Yes.
Is it a nefarious one?
I'll leave it. I'll say this: it's you and I wouldn't use it. For
Okay. All right. So some notorious LinkedIn news at
you and I would have no need to use LinkedIn for this purpose. Does that give it away?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
It might. I won't tease it anymore. We don't want to give it completely away. Indeed, I saw the most hilarious video today on Twitter X, and it was about the subject of men playing in girls' sports. And it was like one of these hidden camera things where this group of dudes were like, you know what? We're going to prove a point on something. And I guess one of their buddies lost a bet because they had this tall guy. He was like 6'2", right? Big, lanky guy. And I don't know why he got designated. Like I said, maybe he drew the short straw. They convinced him to dress up like a girl, okay, and compete. It was like some kind of high school open trials, or maybe it was college, open trials for track and field, right, where anybody could show up and run in these meets. And this guy, big, tall, lanky guy, but self-admitted, he said, I'm not an athlete. I don't run. I'm not very athletic. And they're like, well, dude, you're the perfect guy. So they did like a whole makeup job on him. They made him look like a woman, okay?
Was he an ugly woman?
I wouldn't date him. So Chris, he doesn't warm up.
Yeah.
They give him a pair of sneakers. He goes to the starting line for this open meet, the 100-meter dash. He beats some of the best college female athletes in the country. Just some random dude.
That surprises me because you look at Flo Joyner and some of these women are pretty fast.
But these are college girls, so it just proves the point that guys don't belong in women's sports. And one of these days, everyone on the left will realize that it's stupid to put them in there.
Yeah.
So,
the NBA, WNBA, kind of gave a ruling on their rule not allowing transgender or men into their sports. But I didn't look into it and get the details of it. But they did. Red State actually has an article, so maybe our listeners can go to that. But Red State has an article on the WNBA has ruled on allowing men in their sports. I don't know if it's nay or not.
Wouldn't you think that something called the Women's NBA would be for women?
Well, Vic had a great joke this morning. I don't know if you're listening to his show, but he was talking about the WNBA stands for, in Elmer Fudd's voice, Wesleyan National Basketball Association. I thought that was I almost ran off the road when I heard him say that.
Wesleyan.
The Wesleyan National Basketball Association.
Vic is so great about creating new words. He's extremely talented. Well, there you have it. Well, we may ask Dave. We'll embarrass the heck out of David Stokes, and maybe we'll ask him about all those issues and more. No, we're going to boil it down to the regional, local level. We're going to be talking about all these things involving Sam Page, St. Louis County, home prices in St. Louis, and more. David Stokes is up next on Tuesday's edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon.
But there's nothing dirty going on. Nothing dirty going on. We get simple farmers, local businessmen, Congress folks from Austin, young boys looking for sin.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Chance for a few storms in the morning, especially south of St. Louis, otherwise a low of 71. A hotter, more humid day, a high of 89 degrees, heat index up to 96. And let's watch for some isolated storms that could develop in the late afternoon and evening. Otherwise, it's dry as we head into Thursday with a low of 68, a high of 87. Not quite as muggy. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
If you don't have product, services, filters from Jones Air and Water, then you are the filter for all the gunk and the junk in your air or your water. Doesn't that sound gross? Yeah, don't do that. Get Jones Air and Water out to your home or your business or your commercial or industrial facility ASAP and let them tell you all the ways, show you all the ways that they can improve the air and water quality at your home or at your business. JonesWater.com is where you find Jones Air and Water. They're my brothers and sisters from another mother. JonesWater.com. If you go to JonesWater.com, you'll see they've got a brand new revamped website where you can make an appointment. You can check your water by area. So Jones Air and Water has been in business for so many decades and in so many areas of our region, St. Louis County, St. Charles, Lincoln, Warren, Franklin, Jefferson, and more, that they know, because of all the records they keep, what the water quality specifically is in your area. So you can go to JonesWater.com, do it right now, punch in your town or your zip code, and they'll basically give you a free instant water report. And then you'll go, oh my goodness, I got to get that stuff out of my water. So you give Everett Jones a call. He or Austin, his son, will come out, and they'll test your water on site just to confirm it, corroborate what they believe is likely there. And then they'll advise various systems and products and services that you can install to improve the water quality at your home. The reverse osmosis system, we have it here at the station. I have it in my Jones home. It's fantastic. It's that little like silver nickel-plated spigot you can put anywhere on any sink in your home. Delivers an endless supply of delicious, clean water, building block of great nutrition. And if you want to do the whole house, if you want to filter the water in the whole house, clean the water in the whole house, get the microplastics out of your water, the chlorine, even if you think you have really good municipal water, and St. Louis does in general, it still has stuff in it that you don't want to put in your body. So you can get the HTO system, the whole home system, the Hydrotech HTO system. Finally, how about a dehumidifier for the whole house? We have loved our dehumidifier. We have a humidifier too. We have loved our dehumidifier this summer because it has been excessively humid and excessively gross and really nasty. And that takes all those water droplets out of your air in your home, helps your AC unit work more efficiently, and you can set it at a higher temperature because it doesn't have to work as hard, saving you lots of money in the long term. So for all those products, services, and many more, I want you to check them out today. Go to JonesWater.com. That's JonesWater.com.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Hi, this is Congresswoman Ann Wagner from Missouri's 2nd District. I work every day to put more money in your pocket, secure the border, protect our shared Missouri values, and keep our communities safe. Whether it's visiting one of my public events in neighborhoods around the district or by contacting my office, I want to hear from you. If you need help with a federal agency, please contact me at wagner.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Summer's here, and so is the freshest produce in town. At Anthony's Produce, we specialize in locally grown fruits and vegetables, straight from the farm to your table. Homegrown tomatoes, sweet corn, juicy cantaloupe, watermelon, and peaches, just to name a few. Plus, thousands of locally made products you won't find anywhere else. Need a fruit or vegetable tray for your next gathering? We've got you covered. Anthony's Produce on Jungerman Road or at anthonysproduce.com. Open 7 days a week.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Tonight, the city of St. Louis is launching a new program to help victims of last May's tornado with their water bills. It offers 50% discounts and credits to help. The city says across the area impacted by the tornado, over 4,000 accounts are delinquent on water bills, representing about $4 billion in outstanding water debt.
We want to help residents achieve lower balances, manage their payments, and lower their water bill going forward. Because every household circumstances are different, we're offering several pathways to relief.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute.
In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spiked. It was
I knew there's some spike somewhere in that stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
And as he does every Tuesday, David C. Stokes. David, how are you, my friend?
Hello, Chris. Hello, Tim. How are you guys?
We are doing fantastic. All right, David, let's dive into this new program from the city, from the mayor. She wants to help tornado victims who are delinquent on their water bills get ahead. I guess my first question is, are these people receiving water bills and these homes are in uninhabitable?
That's a great question. I would assume no. What I mean is I would assume that these are people who are still, if your home is uninhabitable, they should have shut off the water. You don't want to still be sending water there. So are these bills, that's a good question. Are these bills from over a year ago still unpaid, that they're still getting bills? Because those people, you understand, could use at least a discount. The city, of course, owns its own water division, so the city can give a discount in these cases whenever it wants to. It's not like it's a private. It should be a private water utility, but it isn't. So if it wants to give a discount to people who were damaged by the tornado and having trouble paying their bill, I get that, and that's fine. If it's just a discount to people who haven't paid their water bill, who weren't damaged or just aren't paying it, I don't think that's appropriate. But as long as it's tornado impacted, I'm fine with that. I will point out that the Show Me Institute's building was damaged, but it's my full understanding that we are current on our water.
That's good.
David, one of the big stories nationally that has been reported over the last few days that affects St. Louis is positive, I believe, in many regards. Would love your opinion on this. Apparently, Market Watch, the national kind of financial online outlet, has termed St. Louis as one of the most affordable U.S. cities in which to buy a home, and it's been that way for more than 130 years. We've spoken with you many times about affordability in the St. Louis region. The trade-off, Market Watch says, is that flatter prices means that St. Louis homeowners build far less wealth through appreciation than high-growth cities. But, David, from looking at home prices in our region, I think St. Louis has done pretty well. Your overall thoughts on housing and affordability here in the St. Louis lands?
Well, it was a very interesting article, and not that it said anything new from, the recent decade or so, but to go back as long as the study it talked about did, back to 1890, and said a rather amazing fact that the home values in St. Louis have over 130 years have only increased 6% over the cost of inflation over that 130-year period. So obviously there's been substantial inflation since 1890, but home values just 6% over that. And that's compared to most other metropolitan areas which have seen home values over inflation of a couple 100% or in a few instances into over 1,000%. So it's really an amazing distinction, and it is both good and bad. There are certainly good aspects of it. Affordable housing is a wonderful thing. To be able to buy a nice home and not have to spend on a modest income is a great thing and a benefit of living in the St. Louis region. And let me get into the reasons why. The primary reasons why housing is so affordable here that the article touched on in part is that, first of all, the article gave a little more detail. We built a lot of houses here in the 1920s and 19-teens and 1930s as this region was growing and the city was growing. So as growth then stalled after World War II, we had a lot of housing to sort of serve the people we have. The next part of that relates to the fragmentation of the St. Louis region. We hear a lot of criticism of fragmentation, meaning a lot of different cities, a lot of local governments. But there's good aspects of it, too. And one of the best aspects of that is, if you've got a whole bunch of cities competing with each other, they can't pass, like, absurd planning requirements like urban growth boundaries or really strict zoning. So because of that fragmentation, we have the most liberal zoning laws in America, and I mean liberal there in a good way. like not as in not strict, as in if you want to build something, you generally can. So we've allowed places like St. Charles to build a lot of houses over the last 40 years and becoming the third largest county in the state of Missouri. So that allowance to build and expand our supply is wonderful, and that's the good reason why housing is so affordable here. The bad reason, of course, is that it's supply and demand, and frankly, over the last several decades, there has not been much demand for people to move to or come to the St. Louis area, and that's unfortunate, and hopefully we can turn that around.
David, we've discussed with you over many shows about the St. Louis Water Department, including today. We've talked about how the infrastructure is over 100 years old. We've talked about how the water is artificially low when it comes to billing people. There was a story today in the Post-Dispatch that a whistleblower has come forward saying that the city has been falsifying water quality test results. Your thoughts?
Well, certainly I've read that article, and I figured we might discuss it. It's very interesting. I have no idea if these accusations from the whistleblower are true or not, but I will say that, yes, the city water defenders, the many people in city government who want to continue the city operating its own water division, have been praising the quality of the city's water for many, many years. 10 years ago, it won some best tasting water competition. And no doubt, the water in the city does taste better than the water from many other parts of the country. But if the water quality reports have been falsified, as this whistleblower is stating, then that would be very troubling, very, very troubling. And in my opinion, just one more reason to do what the city needs to do anyway, which is fully privatize the water division. They need every place that has a municipal water division needs to privatize it into a regulated private system, which will do just a better job of it. That's Kirkwood. That's the city of St. Louis. That's, for your outstate online listeners, that's Springfield and Kansas City, too. It's just a no-brainer move in the modern environment.
Yeah, David, the major problem with the city of St. Louis's water infrastructure is that it's big, it's vast, and it's old, right? So it needs, and I think we've been hearing about this for at least 2 decades now. So I'm not sure if they've made any improvements or not, but it's not going to get better with age, right? Unless they start replacing massive amounts of it.
Well, they took from the RAM settlement funds that they finalized the last distribution of a few months ago. A good portion of that went to water repairs, and that was a great use of it. Yes, look, it's not like I'm blaming city government for all this with the water division. A huge part of the problem is just that it's old. They built it 150 years or so ago. And yes, they haven't invested as much as they should have in recent decades in maintaining it. But all that aside, it's still old, So how much you can sell it for and how you privatize it for a system like that, it's certainly easier said than done. Kirkwood's privatization efforts, which I think they should do for their electric and water utilities, will be much simpler. What Eureka did several years ago, privatizing its system, even though that was a little more well-based on the water, is certainly an easier process than the city would do. But the water system is in trouble. Leaving these whistleblower complaints aside, we know how bad the whole system is and how they're having to dramatically increase prices in recent years. And there's nothing wrong with those price increases, but it's time to just privatize the whole system into a regulated utility. People assume Missouri American would be the primary bidder. While that does seem likely, you'd want to open it up to as many water companies around the country, around the world, as possible to bid on it and get the city of St. Louis a huge payout, hopefully, and improve the overall system for the people of the region.
David, more dysfunction with the St. Louis public schools. We've talked with you about how they're having declining enrollment. There's been stories about closing down schools, and, of course, the teachers' unions are adamantly against that. Post-Dispatch has a story today that the city public schools, St. Louis City Public Schools, plans on spending $24 million on renovating schools that they're likely going to close next fall. How much sense does this make?
It just makes no sense, and it's so frustrating that there's still. It's like, if you got a contract, cancel it. buy yourself out of it. The idea that you're renovating and spending money on buildings you're intending to close, unless you have some plan to actually sell those buildings, to convert them into apartments or commercial use, if you really think you can sell those buildings and you just need to fix them up to do that, I would understand that. But I don't think that's what it largely is. And if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. I think it's just they had plans years ago to rehab these buildings, and whether it was tornado damage or declining enrollment, so whatever the reason, they're just not able to step back and say, hey, we should change what we're doing. They're just there to spend the money. And it's similar, I would say, to all these. I know as we get closer to November, we'll talk about these school district tax increases, either in Hillsborough or Webster Groves or Parkway school districts. They have these giant tax increases going forward, really large ones, especially in Hillsborough and Webster Grove school districts, to sort of expand services, and yet no one seems to be staring at the demographic data that all these school districts are going to have far fewer kids in them in just a couple of years. So here they are, tax, grow, spend, and they're not dealing with the reality of the situation, whether that's clearly the case in the city of St. Louis where they're fixing up buildings they're going to close, or these tax increases in the suburban school districts where they're going to expand, even though everybody knows that in a very short period of time they're going to have far fewer kids to be dealing with.
David, Show Me Institute has had a ton of events recently, and I believe you have one more this week, another one of your insiders hours here in the St. Louis region. We do.
But unfortunately for your listeners who are, clamoring at the phones to call in right now, like it's a telethon over the TV station back in the 80s, it is sold out. Our
wow!
MAC is completely sold out. So that's obviously good from the perspective of people, our supporters and fans are interested in what we have to say. Unfortunately, though, usually when we talk about it, we say, get your listeners, get on, sign up. But this time, it is completely and totally sold out for Thursday.
You'll have
Thank
more.
You for allowing us to. Oh, yeah. People should be going to our events page regularly. People should be signing up for our emails so that they get invitations to these events. It comes for anybody who signs up, makes a donation to Show Me Institute as a 501c3, whatever it may be. We have tons of events. We have more and more. About 2 years ago, we fully recovered and got back to where we used to have events pre-COVID, and it's going great. Attendance is strong. We had a really good event in Columbia last week, and a good crowd there. And I think we're going to have a fun time on Thursday here in St. Louis.
And, David, before we let you go, do you have a favorite Dolly Parton song, movie, or favorite ride at Dollywood?
Wow, great question. I should have seen that coming. First of all, my wife is very upset today. She is a huge Dolly Parton fan, and she is from Knoxville. So we have my favorite thing related to Dolly Parton is not Dollywood, and I have been to Dollywood, but her group has had a water park affiliated with Dollywood. It's like the Dollywood Water Park, and it is great. I've been to the Dollywood Water Park, very close to the Dollywood theme park, probably a half dozen times with family when we're visiting my wife's family. And that is a great water park, and that is my favorite thing associated with Dolly Parton, other than, of course, all the wonderful charity work she'd done her whole life.
And that's David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, and on X, David C. Stokes. Thank you, David.
Thank you, gentlemen. Talk to you again soon.
All right,
see you both soon.
444, Chris's Corner. Are Democrats having second thoughts about El Sayed? I think they are, and I'll tell you more next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
There's some dudes in a bar with busted heads and broken jaws. One hit 'em.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Chance for a few storms in the morning, especially south of St. Louis, otherwise a low of 71. A hotter, more humid day, a high of 89 degrees, heat index up to 96. And let's watch for some isolated storms that could develop in the late afternoon and evening. Otherwise, it's dry as we head into Thursday with a low of 68, a high of 87. Not quite as muggy. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators. They're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
This is Stacy with Reach Reproductive Health. Join us October 22nd for our annual Reach Gala at the Factory in Chesterfield. It will be a night of incredible live music and inspiring stories, and we're excited to finally reveal our keynote speaker, Michael Gosling, birth son of Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers, who will share his powerful story and adoption witness. You won't want to miss it. Register or sponsor a table at outreachforlife.org/gala.
Hey, Columbo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story, the rise and fall of TV evangelist Jim Baker.
Larry Connors, USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL. Chris's Corner, brought to you by Timothy's Restaurant at 12710 Olive in Creve Coeur. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Are Michigan Democrats already experiencing buyer's remorse over their nominee for the United States Senate? Abdul El-Sayed won the Democratic nomination as the energetic face of the party's progressive future. But now that the primary is over, Democrats are discovering something Republicans have been warning about. El-Sayed's political associations may be much harder to defend in a general election. The latest controversy involves Hassan Piker, the far-left internet personality who endorsed El-Sayed, appeared with him at campaign events, and helped him reach younger progressive voters. During a recent live stream, Piker displayed a photograph of Jeremy Moss, a Jewish Michigan state senator and Democratic congressional nominee, and said, quote, "If Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone is going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, but against American Jews." Think about what he's saying. If Jewish Americans publicly support Israel, violence against them may eventually follow. That isn't simply criticism of the Israeli government. It sounds like a warning that Jewish Americans could bring anti-Semitic violence upon themselves. Michigan Democrats certainly understood the implications. Congresswoman Hillary Scholten said Piker's discussion of violence against American Jews and his decision to name Jerry Moss was unacceptable, full stop. She called Piker a hack who thrives on hate, shock, and awe, and said his rhetoric was dangerous, disgusting, and had no place in Michigan or America. Jeremy Moss responded that he would not be lectured by a California podcaster about what Michigan's Jewish community should believe. He added that Jewish Michiganders would not be gaslit into accepting responsibility for anti-Semitic harm committed against them. Former El Sayed primary opponent Congresswoman Haley Schultz Stevens has also called on El Sayed to end his relationship with Piker. Stevens said Piker should be condemned and that there should be no affiliation between him and Michigan's Democratic Senate nominee. Even Democratic strategist Trey Easton, who says he desperately wants El Sayed to win, called Piker a predictable general election liability and urged El Sayed to distance himself clearly and directly. And there is the problem. El Sayed issued a carefully lawyered statement saying nobody speaks for his campaign except El Sayed and his official spokespeople. He called anti-Semitism a scourge and affirmed everyone's right to political advocacy without fear of violence. But he did not clearly say, I disavow Hassan Piker. His remarks were anti-Semitic, and he will have no further role in my campaign. Instead, El Sayed complained that politicians and pundits were trying to make the race about a Twitch streamer. No, doctor, they are making the race about your judgment. You embraced Piker when his enormous online following helped you win a Democratic primary. Now that his rhetoric threatens you in the general election, you want voters to believe he was merely some random internet personality who wandered into your campaign. Democrats are not necessarily abandoning El Sayed, not yet, but they are beginning to recognize what they nominated. They wanted progressive energy. They may have received a candidate tied to the most inflammatory elements of their party at a time when Michigan's Jewish community is already deeply concerned about anti-Semitism. The question for Democrats is no longer simply whether Hassan Piker went too far. The question is whether Abdul El Sayed knew exactly who Piker was when his support was politically useful, and whether El Sayed now lacks the courage to disavow him when that support has become politically dangerous. That is not leadership. That is political calculation. And that is my Chris's Corner. I ask you to follow me on X at Chris_Arps and on Facebook, Christopher Arps Politics. Little buyer's remorse, I think, is starting to set in within the Democrats. They've seen this Hassan Piker guy is very dangerous. He's a flaming anti-Semite, and you've got El Sayed won't disavow him, Tim.
Yeah, Hassan Piker has been causing trouble for months. I think I did a speaker stump speech on him a long time ago. And, you know, it's funny, Chris, the left, the Democrats, they seem to love the bright, shiny new objects, right? The people that grab everybody's attention. And they don't seem to be doing a very good job these days of, like, really doing their Oppo research on these people and seeing how radical are these people really. And let's remember, the Jewish American population has been a reliable Democratic voting bloc for generations, and now they're threatening to drive all those people away. I don't know if they're all going to become voting Republicans, but they could just stay home.
And it shows you once again how the mainstream Democratic Party is beholden to their radical left base because they feel that is where the energy is in their party. That's why they won't disavow people that are talking about abolishing prisons or abolishing ICE or having people get paid not to work, open borders. They won't disavow those people because that is where the energy is in their party. And El Sayed won't disavow Hassan Piker because he brings young progressive voters to the table, and they feel that's where the energy is, and they won't disavow him on that. This is kind of a tail wagging the dog situation when it comes to the Democratic Party right now. And the tail is their most radical part of their base, and it is the one that's running the show right now.
And they're like a cat chasing the laser pointer around, and they're not stopping to think, okay, is this stuff just a fad right now? Is this just where the young folks are? Are people going to outgrow this? Or is the Democratic Party going to become more and more communist? We really don't know the answer to that. They kind of got to answer that for themselves, because if they completely succumb to this extremely radical base, what if a different chunk of the Democratic Party goes, no, we're not really going to follow there, and then they've made their bed and they got to lie in it. So, you know, that's why you should have core principles. And they seem to be throwing all those, like, okay, we got to get back in power. Okay, what's really popular right now? Hating the Jews and hating Donald Trump. Okay.
And America.
And America. All right, well, I don't know that that's a long-term positive vision necessarily, but that's what they're going after in 2026.
And this shouldn't surprise anyone, but today Anthony Fauci's lawyers have launched a legal defense fund for the embattled Dr. Tim. Of course, he is facing state and federal investigation for his role in COVID-19. And I'll be very curious to see just how much money does this fund raise. I brought it up during his Senate hearings when he pled the fifth 111 times that you didn't really see a lot of Democrats and a lot of liberals coming out to defend him. Does that equate to them also not investing in his legal defense fund as well?
Yeah, and this kind of proves the point of what I was previously saying. It was very popular. See, what's popular is not always right. And Tony Fauci was extremely popular for several years during COVID. They were literally making shrines to the guy. People literally were lighting candles to the anti-saint Tony Fauci. And now, Chris, that all this new information has come out, it's embarrassing to everyone who was prostrating themselves on the Fauci altar when we're learning that the whole mask thing was almost entirely made up, especially the cloth masks, right? When we're learning that the 6 feet of separation was completely arbitrary, when we're learning that there really was absolutely no reason for kids to be kept home from school. And so now Democrats are like, yeah, we never said that. That was that Fauci guy. Exactly. And so, yeah, you're right. Who wants to come to this guy's defense at this point? Nobody wants to be in the same room as him.
Exactly. And, of course, it's Tuesday, and that means it's primary day here in the United States. The two states that are having primaries are Oklahoma has a governor's primary, state representative, state senator there in Oklahoma, who was endorsed by President Trump, is running. And the big race today is the South Carolina runoff. That is Darlene Graham running against Ralph Norman, who is part of the Freedom Caucus, Tim. But he kind of got sideways with President Trump because he endorsed Nikki Haley during the 2024 presidential campaign. If you were a betting man, Tim, Darlene Graham or Ralph Norman tonight?
I'll tell you what, this is like a coin flip. Back to the point that we were talking about a few days ago, where one vote can swing an election. I saw a poll this morning on this very race, and it was like 46.7 to 46.8 with 4% undecided. So it could end up being a little bit bigger. There is so much emotion attached to the Graham name in South Carolina, but Ralph Norman seems to be really enjoying the conservative support, the conservative fire. Man, I don't know which way I go on this.
I think Darlene's going to pull it out only because she has the Trump endorsement. I think that's going to make the difference in that race, but we will see tonight. And, of course, we'll talk about it tomorrow here on the show. All right, Speaker Stump Speech.
Boomers! What's up with all this boomer bashing? I'm going to defend all you boomers when we come back.
And then we'll speak with Randy Tobler at 5:23. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Cap Pastrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too. On Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Hungry at midnight? Craving a home-cooked breakfast at noon? At Gingham's Homestyle Restaurant, we've got ya 24 hours a day. For 35 years, folks have been coming back for our famous fried chicken, bone-in catfish, country fried steak, slow-cooked pot roast, scratch-made pancakes, or a slice of homemade pie. Daily specials and a loyalty rewards program that actually pays off. There's always a reason to come back to Gingham's Restaurant in St. Charles. Skip the wait. Join our waitlist on Yelp or at ginghamsrestaurant.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo. Join us every Wednesday at 3 p.m. as we take a break from the chaotic news cycle and have some fun with Skip Weber and Mark Close when we open Close's Cabinet. Brought to you by Weber Chevrolet. Check out what's happening at all 3 locations by going to weberchevrolet.com.
Your trees do a lot for you. Shade, beauty, curb appeal. But are they safe? Clever Tree Service has been protecting St. Louis homes and landscapes for over 20 years. Pruning, trimming, removal, stump grinding, even 24/7 emergency storm service. Fully insured, eco-friendly, and always focused on you. From Kirkwood to Chesterfield, Webster Groves to Wildwood, your neighbors trust Clever Tree Service. Visit clevertreeservice.com for your free quote today.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Tonight is the runoff for the Republican nomination for Senate from South Carolina.
South Carolina voters are deciding who will replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham in the Senate. President Trump has endorsed and campaigned for Senator Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister.
She will be somebody you're going to be very proud. You vote for her, you're going to be very proud of that vote.
Darlene Graham is serving as an interim replacement for her brother. Her opponent is Congressman Ralph Norman, who has told supporters that while he wanted President Trump's endorsement, the voters will ultimately determine who wins.
I asked for the president's endorsement, didn't get it. But anybody would want the endorsement, but he chose who he did, and that's fine.
That audio courtesy of WSOC TV. I'm Mike Hempel.
The Supreme Court has delivered an initial victory to the Trump administration in its efforts to strengthen mail ballot security ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Correspondent Ken Lorman reports.
In a 6-3 ruling, the justices lifted a lower court injunction blocking key provisions of President Trump's executive order in California and 22 other states. The plan would create a federal list of eligible voters and direct the Postal Service to deliver ballots only to those voters. The White House calls the measures common-sense steps to protect election integrity. Ken Lorman reporting.
Dolly Parton, the iconic songwriter, singer, and actor, has died. A statement from her publicist says she died peacefully Tuesday at the age of 80 in Nashville, Tennessee. Parton wrote and sang hundreds of songs, including classics like Jolene and Coat of Many Colors. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 180 points, the Nasdaq rose 171, the S&P advanced 24. More at townhall.com.
Are you carrying more than $10,000 in credit card debt? Do you feel like you're running on a financial treadmill, making payment after payment, month after month, yet never getting ahead? If you're tired of watching your hard-earned money disappear into interest charges, there may be options available to help you take back control of your finances. At Total Financial Freedom, they'll show you what qualified consumers may be able to save through programs designed to help them resolve debt faster than making minimum payments alone. The consultation is free, confidential, and comes with absolutely no obligation. Why spend years, sometimes decades, paying thousands in interest when there may be a better path forward? Total Financial Freedom is a Christian-owned company that has helped thousands of Americans pursue financial freedom for nearly 20 years and is proudly A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now and ask how you can receive a complimentary copy of The Debt Dietitian. Stop running in place. Start moving toward financial freedom at 866-844-7344. 866-844-7344.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Chance for a few storms in the morning, especially south of St. Louis, otherwise a low of 71. A hotter, more humid day, a high of 89 degrees, heat index up to 96. And let's watch for some isolated storms that could develop in the late afternoon and evening. Otherwise, it's dry as we head into Thursday with a low of 68, a high of 87. Not quite as muggy. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer. The Vic Borselli Show.
Very active, very fun chat box. Cinderfer.
Hi, Cinderfer.
Hey, how you doing? She says, yo, Vic, baby. verbatim, yo, big baby, with an exclamation point. How else are you supposed to read that? I was driving, had to pull over to comment. I was going to say how sexy the beard is, but I'm afraid of your wife.
I'll tell you what, I would be.
Fit for Sally, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
How about the net favorability rating in the Democratic Party? Look at this. Look at this long-term trend. In 2012, it was minus 2 points. Look at where it was in a CBS News poll that came out within the last month. The Democratic Party's net favorability with non-college white voters, minus 36 points. So the short-term trend, not necessarily good for Republicans and Donald Trump, but the long-term trend's really, really bad for the Democratic Party. Really, really bad. We're talking about, what is this? This is a 34-point drop over the last 14 years. And even if Donald Trump is struggling, remember, it's which side is losing more.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. It is 5:06 in the p.m. on August 25th, 2026. We are all reminiscing and mourning the passing of an American legend, Dolly Parton. If you hadn't heard yet today, she unfortunately passed away at the age of 80 years old. Chris, she was last seen publicly on June 24th, and I had not heard about this, but she opened up Dolly's Tennessean travel stop. So I guess this is like a big Buc-ee's or a Wally's.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, I didn't know about this. The Cornersville, so in Cornersville, Tennessee, the Cornersville location marked the debut of a first-of-its-kind roadside destination inspired by Dolly Parton's lifelong connection to the open road. She said, well, the doors are open, and I could not be prouder. Whether you're hauling loads, hauling the family, or just passing through, we built this place for you. Good food, real rest, a little music, and people are genuinely glad you stopped in. She died peacefully in Nashville, Tennessee on Tuesday, according to a press release released by her family.
Yeah, sad day. In the last video that I watched of her, she was talking about opening a hotel somewhere in Tennessee real soon as well. So she was multi-talented actress, musician, but also apparently an entrepreneur.
Indeed. And, she seems so full of life and energy, but, once the good Lord brings you up to the age of 80, even though you may have that youthful exterior and lots of energy, sometimes things affect you differently.
Yeah.
I think we can testify to that as we get a little older. Things are a little harder, right, to come back from. And unfortunately, she apparently was suffering from something that led to a demise. She was apparently in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. At that age, a lot of times it's congestive heart failure or something with the circulatory system. So may she rest in peace. I know she's smiling at us from the great beyond, reunited with her family and friends.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, too, which may have contributed to her death, as I stated, her husband of 60 years died a year ago in March. And, 60 years with one person, you don't get over that very quickly.
Hard to lose a partner when you've been with them for 6+ decades. So for those of you who are Dolly Parton fans, we feel your pain. We're sorry to lose this living legend as well. And there will be many, many, many memorials and remembrances, and I'm sure there'll be lots of biopics on TV, and I wouldn't doubt if there's a movie made about her. Joey, maybe there'll be a movie that you'll have to go see, The Life and Times of Dolly Parton.
I know there was something called A Hard Candy Christmas, and I don't know if that's about her life and times, but I'm going to watch that tonight in honor of Dolly.
Very good indeed. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show rolling on here. Thanks for joining us. I should mention that there are 2 huge events of our own. Speaking of events and being out in the public, we have 2 huge events coming up this September, which is right around the corner. We have the annual St. Louis County Lincoln Reagan Day dinner. Chris Arps will be emceeing that, and he'll be introducing Newsmax personality Rob Carson as the keynote speaker that night. You can have this awesome dinner with the full program and all the fixins for only $75. That is a steal in today's world. Go to newstalkstl.com, newstalkstl.com for a link for tickets and details. Get them while they're hot. This is at River City Casino, a beautiful facility in South St. Louis County. Right after that, not even 1 week later, on Friday, September 25th, we're very excited that our good friend, frequent News Talk STL contributor Paul Kurtman, former Missouri State Representative, bringing back his famous star-studded dinners. Paul is bringing Nick Shirley to the St. Louis region. Nick will be appearing at the St. Charles Convention Center Grand Ballroom. We'll be hosting. I'll be helping MC that. We'll have a lot of other VIP speakers announced soon. Ticket includes dinner and a program. Everything must be purchased in advance. You need to go to newstalkstl.com, newstalkstl.com for the Nick Shirley event. Paul said ticket sales are going very briskly. They're on track with his last event, which was, believe it or not, 5 years ago when he brought Don Jr. and Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee into town. So get your tickets while they're available. This event will likely sell out.
And remember, his payment provider canceled him because he had those 2 gentlemen as his guests.
I think Paul went viral for that.
He did.
We were reporting on that. That was right after we first launched this News Talk STL station. And how cool is that Paul is bringing these dinners back during the 250th anniversary of America and the News Talk STL 5th anniversary.
He doesn't even live here anymore. It makes it even better.
Yep. He is. He's frequently back though. I'm not sure Paul seems to have 1 foot in Missouri and 1 foot in Florida. So we'll see where he eventually ends up. But he says the Panhandle is a great place to live and work and raise a family.
It's Florida, low taxes and good weather most of the time.
Pretty darn good weather most of the time. Just dodge the hurricanes. Right there in that clip there, Harry Enton. I love when Harry Enton gets excited about the woes of the Democratic Party. Chris, can you believe that swing in 12 years? White non-college educated voters, basically blue-collar, working-class Americans, have shifted 34 points to the negative for the Democratic Party.
I mean, you talk to these people, they basically use the Ronald Reagan mantra that I didn't leave the Democratic Party left me. The party's become woke. It's been focused on things that are un-American. They're focusing on women and minorities, and white men feel left out. And I think the Democrats know that statistic that you cited there. That's why they're nominating people like Graham Plattner and Troy Jackson up in Maine.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And Harry had a very interesting point there. He said, look, don't be fooled if the Democrats do have some victories this year. History's on their side. It's a midterm election. Harry was basically saying in the short term, the Democrats may win this year. But Harry was pointing out the Democrats have a long-term problem because one of their most consistent voting blocks, blue-collar Americans, are leaving their party in droves.
Yeah.
So.
A little disconcerting, the news over the weekend that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, met with Hakeem Jeffries over the weekend. That kind of signals to a lot of people that the White House is expecting to lose the House, and they want to try to set some type of good grounds for that relationship next in January. So
for those 2 years possibly in the desert. So hopefully the Senate remains in Republican hands. Donald Trump's not going to be going anywhere until his term ends, and then we'll see what happens in the big national election of 2028. Hey, speaking of generations and the different generations, what's all this boomer bashing about? Well, that's the subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So all the objections are actually, I believe, driven by a very nefarious system, by the way, which I think is funded. My theory is it's funded by China or other bad actors who are competing with us, because we had one site that we actually have an FBI investigation where it was a very rural community. There was no reason for all these people to be uptight about this data center. It was going to be way away from everybody's house. And they had 250 people show up to the town hall to protest. Well, they checked IDs. 90% of the people weren't even from that community. Nowhere close. They were being shipped in from as far away as California. These were paid professionals. Who's paying them? Because that's kind of worrisome to me. And when you start losing the narrative and we don't have enough data centers or energy production, China will kick our butts. And this is the race of our lifetime. This is the next space race. If we get this wrong, it will not just hurt our economy, but everything we think is important into the future.
So I played that clip there because that is from Congressman Dr. Rich McCormick. Sounds like he's basically the Bob Onder of Ohio. He is a doctor. He's a congressman. He's also a Marine Corps veteran and a helicopter pilot, a combat vet. And I don't know if he's a boomer or not, but he's probably in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, so he may not quite be a boomer, but I'll bet you all of the younger folks are accusing him of being a boomer because he's defending data centers, as a lot of us folks who are, I think 45 and up are. Like, we recognize the existential threat of China. We've lived through so many crises in our lives, and we've realized that the important thing is for America to lead in all of these things. Look, I understand the concern about data centers and AI, but when did Americans decide that we were going to be America last, that we were not going to promote American energy, that we were not going to promote American technology, that we didn't want America to be a leader, that we were just going to be a bunch of Neanderthals and Luddites? So it seems like some of the younger folks are a little skeptical of all this and are wondering whether or not we should be a leader in these technologies. So we're having a little bit of war of the generations here. And I've noticed, Chris and I have noticed, since we're kind of in that in-between zone. We're not boomers, by the way. Neither one of us. I looked at the official scale. To be a baby boomer, remember the original phrase was baby boomer. People were born from the baby boom of all the World War II generation. Everybody come back from World War II and being in love and happy, and what happens next? Kids come, all right? So that is people born between 1946 and 1964. That's neither one of us.
No.
We are in Gen X, which is 1965 to 1979. So we're Gen Xers, but so Chris and I, we can look up and we can see baby boomers ahead of us. We can look right behind us and we can see the millennials, right? I think they're next, millennials. And so us Gen Xers are going, I'm not sure. We're not sure. But the baby boomers, they did a lot of great things for our country. And I'm wondering if, like we were talking about earlier, are people just envious? Like, okay, so they're like in their prime, right? They've had their careers. Many of them are still working, very successful. Most of them probably own their homes at this point in time. Maybe they have a second home. They're the ones that have the majority of the wealth in the country is concentrated in that generation. And so maybe people are just like, hey, old man, hey, old lady, get out of the way. I'm next. I don't know what it is. Todd Showalter did one of his very funny but often very truthful monologues about boomers, and he wrote about it in his column that you can get. You can get Todd, the public edition, if you want to subscribe to his newsletter. So Todd says that one of the favorite parts of publishing political cartoons isn't drawing them, it's reading what people say about them afterwards. That's because no matter what the cartoon is about, Todd says, doesn't matter if it's taxes, Congress, the media, immigration, the latest government program that somehow costs more than the gross national product of Earth, I know exactly what's coming. Within minutes, some young whippersnapper left-wing commenter will storm into the conversation, crack his vape pen, rub his goatee stubble, and unleash what he believes is the nuclear weapon of social media debate. And we've all seen this in our comments. Okay, boomer. And that's it. That's like the big supposed takedown that Todd has noticed in a lot of the comments about his cartoons. It's not an argument, not a fact. It's not even a real complete sentence or a thought. It's just, okay, boomer. Todd says, apparently, I'm supposed to read those two words, stare wistfully out the window while Perry Como plays softly in the background and whisper, well, I guess I've been defeated. Instead, I usually laugh hard enough to scare the dog. because I don't think they realize they're using the least intimidating insult in human history. It's like trying to offend Arnold Schwarzenegger by calling him muscular, or insulting Taylor Swift by pointing out that she has fans, or telling Warren Buffett he's suspiciously good with money. If you're going to insult somebody, shouldn't the insult be really bad? Calling someone a boomer is really just announcing that they succeeded. They survived long enough to collect stories and other things along the way of the journey of life. We've lived, us boomers have lived through rotary phones, cassette tapes, paper maps, rabbit ear antennas, disco, mullets, fax machines, and television remotes that required actual physical effort. We've watched fashions disappear, come back, disappear again, and somehow return looking even worse. We've survived enough trends to know that most of them actually end up in a yard sale. That's called experience. It's not a character flaw. The part that fascinates me is how, okay, boomer, has become the duct tape of social media arguments. It apparently works on everything. Cartoon about government spending? Okay, boomer. Cartoon about free speech? Okay, boomer. Cartoon about the media? Okay, boomer. If I drew a cartoon reminding people to floss twice daily, someone would undoubtedly respond, imagine caring about teeth. Okay, boomer. At this point, I'm expecting someone to write, your cartoon cured my seasonal allergies. Okay, boomer. Then there's another modern mystery, the bruh, B-R-U-H. What exactly is bruh? As near as I can tell, it's a greeting, an insult, an apology, an expression of amazement, disappointment, excitement, confusion, and occasionally a substitute for actual vocabulary and words. Entire conversations now consist of people saying, okay, boomer, or bruh, back and forth like two malfunctioning smoke detectors. If Abraham Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address today, it would probably end, government of the people, by the people, for the people. Bruh. Shakespeare wouldn't have written Hamlet. He would have written Brullet. What really makes me laugh is that every one of these commenters thinks he's a fearless, independent thinker while typing the exact same response as the previous 12,000 people before him. Imagine joining a marching band playing exactly the same note as everyone else, then announcing that you're the musical rebel. I picture them sitting together in an apartment furnished entirely with IKEA shelves that lean slightly to the left, sipping Trader Joe's oat milk while somebody probably announces, guys, I just commented, okay, boomer. The room erupts, high fives, a standing ovation. Someone lifts a lavender candle. Another person begins knitting a protest sign. CNN interrupts programming to report democracy has once been saved. Meanwhile, I'm already halfway through drawing tomorrow's cartoon. Look, every generation enjoys making fun of the generations that came before it. That's perfectly normal. Somewhere in ancient Rome, there was probably a teenager rolling his eyes saying, whatever, centurion. But at least he probably had the creativity to invent his own insult instead of borrowing one from the other 1,000 teenagers hanging around the Colosseum. So by all means, keep calling me a boomer. Every time you do, you remind me that my cartoon bothered you enough to stop scrolling, type a comment, and announce to the entire internet that your strongest rebuttal consists of 2 overused words. That's not exactly the devastating own yet you think it is. In fact, if okay boomer is still the best comeback you've got after all these years, who's the one stuck in the past? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm already drawing tomorrow's cartoon, and you're still coloring outside the lines in the same one from the day before. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
Yeah, I think there's always been criticism of different genres. You remember in the 60s, their big saying was don't trust anyone over 30, but there wasn't a jealousy type of factor in that. It was just being against the man or being against the establishment. I think with this, and I said it earlier, I think a lot of the younger generation see that the country's $40 trillion in debt. They blame the boomers for that. They've been told for years that the country is in decline. Well, why is it in decline? Because of the boomers. They're graduating college with $100,000 worth of debt. They can't find a job. They can't buy a house. They're living in their parents' basements. Boomer generation are usually have traditional values that they don't really accept anymore. And so I think they're basically looking at the boomer generation as responsible for their problems.
Yeah, we need to become the nation of personal responsibility.
Yeah, amen.
Again, you know? And look, if you think that the boomers have done you some great wrong, well, then you should go about fixing it, yourself. Chart your own path, and don't. If you think that mistakes have been made by the generations ahead of you, don't make them again.
Yeah, their solution, though, Tim, is the Democratic Socialists of America.
Yep.
That's their solution.
Yep, which is, again, allowing somebody else to completely screw up things even more. Well, there you go. To all the boomers out there, we love you, and we thank you for listening to the program. Next up, I think he's a boomer, Dr. Randy Tobler. He's the host of the Randy Tobler Show on Saturdays. We're going to talk to him about the Trump administration revoking 200,000 visas, this mail-in voting executive order, and more when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Chance for a few storms in the morning, especially south of St. Louis, otherwise a low of 71. A hotter, more humid day, a high of 89 degrees, heat index up to 96. And let's watch for some isolated storms that could develop in the late afternoon and evening. Otherwise, it's dry as we head into Thursday with a low of 68, a high of 87. Not quite as muggy. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC. Mark your calendar for the annual Leadership for America Dinner 2026, Friday, September 25th at the St. Charles Convention Center Grand Ballroom. Join News Talk STL for an unforgettable evening featuring keynote speaker Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who exposed the alleged fraud in Minneapolis, plus additional speakers and guests. Dinners included, so come hungry for great food and bold ideas. For tickets and more information, visit newstalkstl.com.
Tired of being the main course at your own backyard barbecue? Meet the Mosquito SWAT team. Every member is a licensed technician who custom mixes your treatment on site. We've got over 15 options and we never lock you into a contract. Take back your backyard, themosquitoswatteam.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This morning, the White House cracking down on foreign nationals attempting to abuse America's immigration system. The State Department is now expected to launch the largest mass visa revocation in U.S. history.
So the focus on this effort is on people who came to the United States using B1 business visas or B2 tourist visas, which are intended for temporary visits and then applied for asylum to remain in the country.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work, the world of forensic medicine.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Dr. Randy Tobler joining us as he does on Tuesday afternoons. You can hear him every Saturday for 3 hours. and it's hardly ever enough for the wit and wisdom of the good Dr. Randy Tobler. Doc, we want to talk to you about this immigration news and a lot of other things, but we can't ignore the big headline of the day. We've all been covering it. I'm sure you'll be talking about it tomorrow morning. The passing of an international icon, Dolly Parton. Your thoughts?
Well, like a lot of things going on right now, politically and culturally, it just feels like a huge tectonic change in this nation, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the old, reliable, traditional, good old, thigh slapping, beer drinking, hollering, hooping, good old American, style seems to be heading the other way, right? And I think it's a great loss because, there was no one that was more iconic in terms of gathering people and just full of love. And how many times did I go to the Dixie Stampede in Branson with my kids? I can't even count them. I almost stopped eating chicken after that. I've been there so many times. But no, we're patriotism and American values and just those good, down home rootsy kind of things tend to be going, going the other way. They're going aside and making room for a new generation. And, what that's going to bring, I hope it's not DSA. I hope it's more the revival that we've seen, on campuses. And, and I guess it's going to be that titan battle of who's going to win out. The Dolly Partons are the El Sayads of the world. I know where I'll place my bets.
Doc, I think I'm going to start getting into gardening and just growing my own food now. We've had the cyclospora thing with the lettuce. We've had a salmonella outbreak with jalapenos, 400 reported cases in 32 states. And now we have an alfalfa sprout outbreak.
Yikes.
What's going on here?
That's not the first time that the alfalfa sprout thing has been there. I think those are very, for some reason, those tend to be products that over the years tend to be sort of a recyclable kind of a problem. And look, anytime it's ironic, isn't it? Here we are in an era where, and I'm really thankful for this, that RFK has really elevated eat real food and try to eat natural stuff and cook your own food and, hit the outside of that grocery store and hit the lettuce and the produce department, early and often. Isn't it funny that, now we're hearing these kind of things? Maybe people will go back to frozen stuff and processed foods because at least it's been through the ringer 5 or 6 times. But, in terms of the absolute risk of having this problem, it's very, very low. And we might say, too, that, while people have been a little afraid and I think skeptical of government involvement in our health, whether it's vaccine recommendations or, whether it's pharma and FDA approval of stuff. I think the monitoring function of government when it comes to CDC monitoring of this is a really important function. And I hope that we don't throw that by the wayside because at least people can be wary of, when these outbreaks are occurring, okay, better take it easy. Maybe I'll avoid this little piece of produce for a while and, wait till things settle down. So hopefully it's not too bad. But, man, a life without jalapenos is like a day without the sunshine.
And, Doc, to make matters worse, in a related story, my dad, who I think you've met, who's a retired veterinarian, lifelong veterinarian, he sent me an update from the Missouri Department of Agriculture about this New World screwworm outbreak in Texas and New Mexico in June, and apparently it's still causing problems. Now, I understand there's no threat directly to humans, but if it's affecting our livestock, like our cattle, our sheep, and our goats, that's another cause for concern. This is what government's supposed to do, though, right, Doc? They're supposed to take care of actual outbreaks and help stem to do damage control, right?
You're right, and I think as I understand, in Texas, it got a little out of control, and there was a lot of controversy where the head of it was either the Department of Ag or the health down there. I think it was Ag Department guy got into it with other officials, and there is a very effective way of controlling that. But I think some folks apparently in the domestic husbandry business and livestock business are concerned about, and in the environmental business are worried about too much sort of a 1-2 punch that traditionally has been shown very, very effective. But again, we're in a time when people are cautious about glyphosate when it comes to, herbicides on our crops. And, are we spreading around too much spraying of whatever they would spray in sort of a general umbrella sense to try to cover these herds along with specific things? And as I understand it, there was some battle down there about whether to go back to the old tried and true for decades way of dealing this. And someone didn't want to do it, and someone did want to do it. I think our Department of Ag people here in Missouri are really sharp. They've got great support from the University of Missouri and other institutions around the state. So I just anticipate that we're not going to have any political battles get in the way of real science. And I don't mean Fauci-style science. I mean good science.
Doc, as an OBGYN, I've been very curious to get your thoughts on this Lindsay Clancy case. She's the woman in Massachusetts who killed her 3 children. Her defense is that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis. I want to get your thoughts on that. And the fact that there are women now that are coming to her support and saying that her husband is the one who probably actually committed the murders.
I don't know. I've heard those conspiracy theories, and I guess that's for the forensic investigators on the scene with the crime scene, forensics to figure it out. But look, I'm troubled by the fact, because I have never had a patient with that deep of a postpartum psychosis. It's really pretty rare. Postpartum depression is not unusual. Postpartum blues, probably 80% of women get some version of that. But then there's depression at a deeper level where it becomes a problem for the patient to function, to, just do normal kind of mom kind of things. Not that they're threatening. It's just a matter of total, almost like a catatonic, paralysis. And they just need a little help. Usually it's not enough sleep coupled with often a history of depression. And that can be treated pretty readily with fairly standard remedies. But as far as psychosis and losing touch with reality and hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there, I have never had anyone. I've had a couple of patients that had psychosis, but not to that level. And they had pretty significant previous psychiatric histories. And I guess that's what I'm unclear about. It appears as though we don't have an evidence of like a deep, dark psychiatric past for this woman. And that doesn't in any way, shape, or form eliminate the possibility that could have been just a new diagnosis for her. You hear, pretty well-spoken, quote, experts, psychiatrists who deal with this stuff a lot more than I do on both sides of the fence, the prosecution and the defense. So I don't know what to think. Maybe it's sort of like elections. Whoever pays the most money gets the most effective witness. I mean, I don't know. But it does trouble me that there seems to be so much debate as to whether you can have a temporary psychosis, be totally unaware, and feel no guilt or no, accountability in the moment because you're out of your mind, and then pull out of it. I know that psychosis can wax and wane, but boy, to have it this black and white, this hot and cold, I don't know. But again, I have to sort of plead uncle on this one because I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm really troubled by the fact that it seems like we've got them on both sides, experts saying that she did it and could have done it and could have been absolutely psychotic or not in the other way. No, you can't do that. You can still do that and know that you're in trouble, that you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, Doc.
Look, I just hope that if she ends up in a psychiatric institution, it's for a long, long, long time.
Right. That's what you hope, if that's the truth. Because I agree with you as a former litigator who worked in the criminal defense field as a prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. I've always been troubled with the not guilty by reason of temporary insanity. And I'm thinking, okay, Doc, to your point, like I would imagine, again, I don't have the medical background. I've just only studied the law on this, but it's got to be extremely rare, right, that someone would have like a Jack Nicholson in The Shining kind of episode where you just completely, absolutely go berserk. I mean, I don't know what the science says about that, but I would think those are very, very limited, isolated incidences. But it seems like that word, not guilty by the reason temporary insanity, gets thrown around a lot these days.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that this might, the very fact that there's so much controversy and publicity and above-the-fold news on this, Tim, really worries me. I mean, there was this guy and this kid in Pennsylvania, I believe, that stabbed his girlfriend, all of a sudden, oh, well, he was temporarily insane. Well, I think you could argue, if you want to be sort of a smart aleck devil's advocate, couldn't we argue that almost anyone who shoots a cop in the back of the head is that really a sane person if you want to broaden the definition of sanity, right? And I think it then maybe cheapens the few cases where there really are people who are, it's known to everyone that they're out of their minds and they do something absolutely crazy, but everyone is saying, well, my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner, that kind of a thing. And that's about this case that troubles. First of all, she's guilty of killing her children, strangling her children. She's guilty of that. Is she guilty in a legal sense, like you talked about and dealt with? I don't know. You can argue that in the courts and whatever. But she killed her children, and she admits that, right? So she is guilty. Was she crazy, though, when she did that? And I think the thing that bothers me is, instantly, like a light switch, you send your husband out to get some carry out, he heads out of the door, and unless he is part of it and absolutely knew she was crazy and denied it, and I can't believe that. I mean, I can't believe that she just slipped into and out of this without him having some warning that would have kept him there in the house, right? That's the thing that bothers me about this, the chronology of it, this sort of convenient, at least it seems like it could be a convenient in and out thing. And here's the other thing. Apparently she is not in the moment when she's crying in these episodes. She's not saying, I did it, I can't believe I did it, I just, that wasn't me. It's that she can't stand it. She can't listen to it. She can't, I don't know, that to me shows some remorse or at least some awareness that it was wrong, but yet no contrition over it. I don't know, it's the darndest case ever. And that just, it's one that I have to tell you, rarely do I run from news-making headlines because, it's interesting to talk about, and it's things that people are talking about, and I think our audiences want to hear about it. But one after another, people that I'm on the air with, on my program, it's like women especially, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I cannot go there.
It's
so
horror.
grisly to think about. I just can't think about it. And I think that's sort of where I am at it.
Well, let's finish up on a more happier note, Dr. Tobler. Big medical news yesterday about Merck's cancer drug Keytruda being combined with a new experimental therapy called Instamaron, which has showed great promise for patients with high-risk melanoma. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this is just another step on the stairway to liberation from melanoma. I mean, we're not there, but look, when I was training up until probably 15 years ago, maybe, melanoma was, if you get a deeply invasive, if it had gone below sort of the barrier membrane of the skin, it was like, oh boy, we shake our heads at the doctor's lounge, not a good thing for Joe or Sally. And it's been transformed into a disease that in many, many cases that before were just sort of written off as this is not going to work out well, to management as a chronic disease. That we've seen that with ovarian cancer a little bit. We're seeing a lot of cancers turn into, while they may not be ultimately, people experiencing full life expectancy and full cures, long-term survival that you just wouldn't imagine just a short blink ago in terms of medical history, timeline. And that's all because of the amazing development of researchers being able to unlock the keys to the immunologic cloaks that some cancers develop. Sometimes they disable the immune system. Other times, they have clever ways of, it's like a plant that's growing like a weed and it needs a lot of water. Well, tumors are able to create their own blood supply and invest in that to where it comes in. So whether it's, these novel mechanisms that are immunologically based and often combined with some of the older technologies are now, as you referenced, combining two new biological, immunological things. It's amazing. And I think with AI, while AI may have all, potential downsides, boy, I think we're going to see the pace of these advances go. And that is super, unbelievably great news.
Indeed it is. Dr. Randy Tobler will deliver more of that information, knowledge, and wisdom Saturday morning here at News Talk STL, the Randy Tobler Show, 6 to 9 a.m. here at 101.9 Doc, thanks for everything. It's always great having you on.
Thanks, Doc.
I enjoyed it so much. Thanks, guys.
Yes, indeed. 5:44 in the PM. When we come back, Chris has an interesting story regarding LinkedIn and a use that you might not think it could be used for.
Not for me and you, though.
Okay. Well, maybe we're safe from it. And then Larry Connors, USA, Commander Connors comes at you at 6:05. Story behind the story today, a very interesting rise and fall story of one of the most famous and then infamous characters of our nation's past. All of that and more coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Chance for a few storms in the morning, especially south of St. Louis, otherwise a low of 71. A hotter, more humid day, a high of 89 degrees, heat index up to 96. And let's watch for some isolated storms that could develop in the late afternoon and evening. Otherwise, it's dry as we head into Thursday with a low of 68, a high of 87. Not quite as muggy. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Handsome, ultra MAGA Speaker of the House, the one and only Tim Jones. And Ken Williams will take you through 9 to noon on Thursday. So, enjoy. It's as Jewish as I can do it.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Since 1964, Royal Banks of Missouri has been proud to be your local community bank. They serve St. Louis, St. Charles, Southern Illinois, and Northeast Missouri. What I love about Royal Banks is this. They've got that hometown feel, but they've also made banking incredibly convenient. Their local team is ready to partner with you at any stage of your financial journey, whether you're just getting started or planning your next big move. Here's the game changer, though. They're interactive teller machines, ITMs. No more rushing to beat bank hours. We've all been there. You can connect with a real Royal Banks employee, even in the evenings and on Saturdays. Whether it's a deposit, a payment, or just getting help, it's simple, secure, and you're still talking to a real person you can trust. That's the difference with a true community bank. Visit royalbanksofmo.com to find an ITM near you and to learn more. Royal Banks Missouri, investing in our communities, one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Hush not, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Toward your destination, though you may find from time to time complication.
President Trump this morning is also taking new shots against Canada. On his social media platform, Truth Social, he posted, "The United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America."
Well, I think it's a lot of rhetoric. And when President Trump wants to attack our sovereignty and attack our businesses and people in Ontario, I can't roll over. My job is to protect Ontario and Canada, and ironically, protecting the American people.
548 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. President Trump, the king of the political troll. You know, he did change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and a lot of maps, including Google, actually adhere to that. I wonder if he changed Lake Ontario to Lake America, would they go for it?
I don't know. I mean, on everything I've seen, it's the Gulf of America now.
Yeah.
Like, for real. And it's on T-shirts, so it must be true, right?
Exactly.
Canada better watch it. Look, I don't want to big dog them, but, like, Chris, they barely have more people than the one state of California. I mean, Canada needs the U.S. for so many reasons. And it's kind of a wasteland up there, let's be honest. That's why there's only 40 million people there. So I don't know. I think we win this fight long term.
I do too, but Canada does have some leverage on the northeast seaboard. They supply a lot of electricity to those states and to those cities there, and they have in the past threatened to cut off the electricity. So they've got some leverage, but not as much as they probably think they do.
Yeah.
All right, LinkedIn. Tim.
LinkedIn, I want to hear about this. LinkedIn problem.
LinkedIn members, Tim, are increasingly using the service to find romantic partners.
Wait, isn't that what Grindr's for?
Yes. Wall Street Journal says one dating coach said that she encourages clients to use LinkedIn to reach out to romantic interests, but that the first message should be subtle. LinkedIn said, "Hey, you want to go to a hotel after the board meeting?" I guess you don't say that. LinkedIn says users are looking for love in all the wrong places. Using it to find dates is against the rules. Our focus, according to LinkedIn, is on making sure that people are safe from unwanted romantic advances. So if you are on LinkedIn and trying to secure a romantic partner, you may get your account suspended. So be
really?
Very, very careful.
So they're monitoring this.
Yes, they said they are not for that. They are for networking and people finding jobs and
professional
networking.
Yes.
Not to get a hookup.
So I threw out the whole Grindr thing, but I have no idea what Grindr is. Joey, is that the bad one?
That's the gay site.
Is that the bad, nefarious, nasty site? What
I
is
wouldn't equate gay with bad, but it is the gay one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
and
the gay
the
one.
worst part, there's no E in it. It's just Grindr.
See,
I noticed that.
I honestly don't know what any of these are. I just hear people talking about them. The old-fashioned one was Tinder, right?
Yeah,
was that the original?
Yeah.
Grindr's there's a gay one? See, I didn't even know that.
Grindr is the gay dating site.
Of course.
Don't ask me how I know that. I'm not indulging.
Neither one of us use it. All right?
Exactly.
What's the other one? There's other ones too, right? There's like
what's the first one where they used to play that song over and over and over? It was a pop hit from the '70s, and every time that commercial would come on, I would turn it off because it was a Nat King, Natalie Cole, one of her hits from the '70s, and they used that as their song for their site. It was one of the first dating sites.
I'm a Farmers Only guy. That's the one I use.
Farmers Only?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to be lonely at farmersonly.com.
You know what makes me really uncomfortable? And we usually, I thought they only ran these late at night on like Fridays and Saturdays, but you pointed it out the other day. They were running it in the middle of the freaking afternoon. Those long drug commercials.
Oh, yeah.
And look, I feel bad if people have, it's mainly for like HIV-related stuff, but these commercials go on for like 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah. And it's a bunch of scenes. Look, if you want to be gay, I don't care. I don't need to watch it for 4 minutes on a TV commercial. These people, and they're all like making these, they're like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not a homophobe. I'm not. But it's like the commercial, it's not a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
It goes on forever.
The ones that crack me up, and I guess you have to do this for legal reasons, is when they give the disclaimers at the end.
Oh, they're hilarious.
That if you take this drug, your tongue may swell up, you may have a heart attack, you may have permanent brain or heart damage.
Or even death.
And it's like, why the hell would I want to take a drug that has all of these potential side effects? But I guess they have to do that for legal reasons.
Yeah, it's like they have this voice comes on, and it's like a drug for, okay, so it's not even it's for something simple, right? It's for like, you have a rash, right? You have a skin rash. And then this disclaimer, and it's the lawyers. Thank you. I'm sorry. It's our fault. This disclaimer comes on, and it's like most of the commercial. Yeah. And, Chris, by the time they get to the end of the disclaimer, I literally have sometimes sat there and said, what was that drug for?
Yeah.
I've completely forgotten, but I do know that it may cause death.
The one that never made sense to me is when they were doing the Viagra commercials. And they would talk about, if you have an erection that lasts 2 or 3 hours, go get help. And I'm like, isn't that what it's for?
So now that people probably think I'm a homophobe, I will say that those commercials also make me uncomfortable, even though I'm heterosexual, because they go on for a long time too. And they're really cheesy. Yeah. They're super cheesy. And then, yes, I think the same thing. I'm like,
that's a good thing, isn't it?
Wasn't that the point of why? I'm so confused. all these drugs and the side effects and all that,
Yeah.
we could have a whole segment with Dr. Tobler just talking about big pharma ads and all of the complications and contraindications that go with them.
And the thing is, they don't do it as much as they used to. But, when you watch the Sunday political shows, the audience for that are usually older people. But there's also kids that are up at that time watching television, maybe with their grandparents or with their parents. And I just wonder how awkward it would be, or it was, when you're watching a show with your grandkids and they're talking about having erections that longer than 3 or 4 hours.
On a Sunday morning.
Yeah, on a Sunday
Yeah.
morning. Make sure you consult your doctor. I thought that was probably pretty awkward.
There's a lot of uncomfortable stuff that did not exist when we were growing up. So I guess we're just old fuddy-duddies. I don't know.
Tim, we talk often here about data centers on the show. I think you did a speaker stump speech on it a couple of days ago, or Monday, or sometime last week. A new poll has come out. Okay. Americans are split. 43% supported data centers being built near them, while 42% oppose them. Now, that was last August. Now, a year later, 75% say they'd oppose one. A swing of more than 30 points. So the data center, AI companies, big tech companies, they got a lot of work to do, man.
I did see a poll regarding that where the sentiment swung the other way when and yes, this is the problem. They got to educate people. They said, hey, the water problem has been largely cured. So if we told you that, what would you then think? It improved 32 points, I think, to the positive. So the problem is, yes, the tech companies got so far behind on this, they lost the narrative. But I've seen a ton of influencers and information on Twitter X where they're trying to swing it back the other way by saying, look, two big problems, water and electricity. We've solved the water problem. People go, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've got a water statistic actually on data centers in my stack. It says here, the water use of every data center in America in 2023 equaled less than 1% of the water used to irrigate the nation's agriculture that year. 1%. So
car washes and golf courses use more water.
Exactly. We talked about how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are headed back to the UK.
I still wonder what that's all about.
New York Post has a story on this, Tim. It said that when they were in the United States and living in California, Meghan Markle requested a sit-down with California Governor Gavin Newsom because she wanted to be considered to be appointed to a seat held by Kamala Harris. A Sussex source says that's there in England. It says she was firmly denied. The Post also reports that the couple in 2021 requested an Oval Office meeting with Biden, as well as accommodations at nearby Blair House. An idea White House staff quickly rejected. So the
is that what this whole thing was about?
I guess they didn't feel the love here in America, so they're going back to the UK.
So they wanted to be an American she or he wanted to be an American politician, and that didn't work out. So screw you, Americans. We're going to go back across the pond.
And the king is not getting any younger, so maybe they want to be with him in his last few years. Not saying I know anything or he's going to die soon, but he's not a young man anymore, and maybe they want to not be half an ocean apart.
Indeed.
All right, that is the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Up next is Larry Connor's USA. The story behind the story, the rise and fall of televangelist Jim Bakker. Boy, that's going to be a great story. Listen next on Larry Connor's USA, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Hey, J.D. Allman here, looking for the ultimate escape? Well, welcome to Santino's, where luxury meets authenticity in a stunning 6,000 square foot destination. Browse hundreds of premium cigars in the walk-in humidor. Explore more than 700 bottles of whiskey. Whether it's their non-smoking wine room, gaming lounge with custom poker tables, it's Santino's just off Highway 55.